Hey, what's up, y'all? For this guide, we're going over the basics for Adachi. Major thanks to Jonah510 from the Persona Fight Club Discord who provided this amazing high-level Adachi gameplay. Adachi can be considered a rush-down character of sorts. Although he is a relentlessly aggressive character, he doesn't have a typical mix-up game. Instead, the focus is on locking the opponent down and then capitalizing on their mistakes by leveraging your SP meter for high damaging combos, as well as taking advantage of the dynamic range of status effects at your disposal. The standard playstyle for Adachi is a very strategic one, so I definitely recommend this character for anybody who's naturally patient and cerebral in their approach, but also knows when to turn up the pressure. Adachi has great neutral tools on the ground and in the air because his persona is a threat at all times. He has a bunch of safe strings for the pressure game that have very few gaps and can frame trap the opponent very easily. He can inflict pretty much every status ailment in the game, so the opponent has to have a great grasp over the fundamentals and also be ready to react on the fly to whatever status ailment you've inflicted them with. Remember, the more you can make your opponent think, the easier time you'll have to beat them. And when I say your patience will be rewarded with this character, I mean it. He gets infinitely better with every 25 SP that becomes available to him. You unlock so many options in your combo routes, on defense, and especially neutral, all of which we'll go over very shortly. All of it adds up to a huge comeback factor for Adachi after you get your buffs rolling. But of course, that's a double-edged sword. With a huge chunk of your game plan being gated behind SP meter and awakening, you can be put on the back foot early and be forced to be in a situation where you need to recover and make a comeback. Also, with 4 persona cards and a lot of moves that leave your persona out for a little while, you're always susceptible to a persona break if you're not careful. As far as furious action goes, Adachi's is pretty mediocre. You don't want to pull this out too much, even though it may save you in certain situations. But as long as you stick to the game plan, then the pros greatly outweigh the cons and you shouldn't have too much trouble. Before we get into the move list, we are using numpad notation for these guides, so if you want a breakdown of that if you're unfamiliar, you can check it out here. I'll only be talking about the notable tidbits of Adachi's move list, so if you want the comprehensive breakdown, you can go over to dustloop.com. Adachi's light attacks aren't the best, but you have to use them. 5A is a move that you always want to cancel out of due to its frame data. 5AAA has a gap if you try to use it in pressure, but it does give you Adachi's only low light attack. It can be useful to throw out sometimes to make sure the opponent is watching their feet. The 4th hit of the auto combo gives you a safe jump and also refills a little bit of your burst meter, so it's also pretty cool. Adachi's 2A is not a low attack, but it is a good pressure tool to stagger and tick throw with. 5B is a 3-part move that you'll often cancel after the first hit. Make sure you don't whiff it because you can only cancel on hit or block, so if you get stuck in the animation, then the opponent is just going to capitalize. 2B is an anti-air attack that takes you airborne. It's also very good for block strings and to enable certain combos. This is another move that you don't want to whiff because it has very long recovery as well. Adachi's jumping A and jumping B as standard air attacks, nothing really too special about them. Adachi's all-out attack can be useful to use sometimes because a lot of opponents have trouble reacting to the overhead in time. The sweep has pretty good range, but can only be comboed into in certain situations. Now the persona attacks are where we really see Adachi's strength. Adachi's C attacks both on the ground and in the air are pretty much the linchpin of your game plan. 5C is a 3-part attack with a huge hitbox. A trend with Adachi C attacks is that the first hit converts the move into a grab. So what this means is that you can cancel out of the move until the green flash appears. After the move converts into a grab, then Adachi regains freedom of movement while Izanagi finishes the command. 2C and jumping 2C is another 2-part hit grab attack. It hits airborne opponents only, and it is unblockable. The neutral D move on the ground and in the air has very long startup, but if you can get it off, it gives you pretty much free pressure. Don't use it too often because your persona is just going to get broken. 2D and jumping 2D is a very good move. It tracks the opponent and it does a lot of damage on hit. It can be used to cover your approach and also is a great anti-zoning tool when the opponent gets way too comfortable throwing out full screen attacks. Jumping C is Adachi's absolute best move. It gives huge amounts of space control and you'll want to use it very often. Counter hits gives you a ton of damage potential and opponents are very scared of this move. Just make sure you always use it close to the ground because if the opponent blocks it and you're too high, then you're negative and can be punished. Adachi's throw does low damage, but you gain meter during his laugh animation. Like I said before, Adachi's Furious action isn't very good. It has a lot of startup, but it does hit overhead then low, so it could catch a few opponents off guard. But that'll stop working as you climb the ranks. Quarter Circle Forward AB is mainly a combo tool. The A version can walk through projectiles for a certain amount of frames and gives you a tackle attack once you press A or B after it. The B version grabs on hit and sends the opponent to the other side of you. The SB version leaves the opponent spinning, and in most situations you can continue the combo. Quarter Circle Back AB Gunshot is a very good move. It can cancel once into itself. It's very good for pressure and checking the opponent in block strings when they think that they don't need to be concerned about a low from Adachi. The A version hits close and the B version hits a bit further. The SB version hits the opponent no matter where they are. Quarter Circle Forward CD only hits standing opponents, but it cannot be blocked. It inflicts fear, which gives any hit a fatal counter, giving you hugely damaging combos. This is actually an amazing tool that's used in a lot of advanced setups that we won't be covering in this guide, but keep it in the back of your mind. Quarter Circle Back CD is a command grab with pretty quick startup. The D version has longer range, but takes a little bit longer to get going. The SB version is the best of both worlds, which is quick and has the range of the B version. Double Quarter Circle Forward AB gives you the Heat Riser super. This is your go-to super in combos. It applies a 10% damage and defense buff on hit. Very good. Use it all the time whenever you get a hit. Double Quarter Circle Forward CD Atom Smasher is also a very good move. Mainly you want to look out for using the SB version when you have 75 or more meter. You can threaten zoning and people throwing out attacks from full screen and do a ton of damage with it. Once you're in Awakening, you unlock 2 additional supers. Double Quarter Circle Back AB gives you Magatsu Mandala. This super applies a buff regardless whether you hit or not, even if you whiff. The buff enhances most of Adachi's moves by giving them status inflictions if they hit. The A and SB versions come out at the persona's location, while the B version comes out at Adachi's location. So there may be times where you can catch the opponent slipping, say after a 2C, and use the Magatsu Mandala and get a full hit on them while getting your buffs applied. Double Quarter Circle Back CD is a 0 frame command grab. If the opponent sees this and they're not in the air, they're getting grabbed and you're going to do a whole lot of damage. The move itself inflicts fear, but it does a ton more damage if the opponent is already inflicted by fear before he uses the move. Now for the combos. Adachi's beginner combos are very straightforward and there's only one real difficult thing to learn, so we're going to wait a bit before we get into it. The auto combo is something that you actually want to use every now and then since it gives you a safe jump as well as bonus meter, which Adachi relies on very heavily, and also refills the burst meter a little bit. But your go-to combo without meter should be confirming into 5B, all 3 hits of 5C, and then hitting the tackle as soon as 5C finishes, which also gives you a safe jump and allows you to continue your pressure. It can be cool sometimes to combo into sweep and gunshot instead, just to give the opponent a different defensive look. Stick to the game plan. The more we make them overthink, the easier they become to open up. When you do accumulate that 50 SP though, you want to make sure that you confirm any hit into the Heat Riser super. You want to make sure that you use the B version of the Heat Riser because it gives the opponent more fall time, allowing you to combo into a 2C to end it. If you're able to recognize that you hit a crouching opponent, then keep this combo in mind where you can confirm into 2B, jumping C, and then finish off the combo however you want. Remember, hitting crouching opponents also allows you to confirm into sweep, which can be comboed into a gunshot, either the A version or the SB version. And we'll get into that in just a bit, I promise. Also, make sure you practice this. If you have additional meter and are in awakening state after you finish that basic Heat Riser combo, you can always combo into the Magatsu Mandala super. The only thing is that the timing is very strict, so you have to learn it. Here's a basic counter hit combo off of 5C. You want to air dash cancel the startup animation of the grab portion of the 5C attack, land a jumping C, then finish it off with the combos that we just worked on. Okay, here's where a lot of players begin to struggle with Adachi. Adachi's most optimal combo routes involve something called a tennis loop. The principles to the tennis loop aren't very complicated, but it's the execution that gets a lot of players hung up. To perform the tennis loop, you want to create a situation where you can combo into 2C while on the ground. A good setup to practice this is comboing a sweep into an SB gunshot. Then you can hit the opponent with a 5B in the air, right here and combo into 2C. Now remember what I said earlier about how you can cancel hit grab moves right before that green flash? So you were going to cancel the 2C with a hop. Now you're in the air while Izanagi is displaced, flying past the opponent. And what did I say is our best air attack? Jumping C. Now the displaced Izanagi will actually bat the opponent back towards you, and you can land a 5B into 2B and finish it off with another jumping 2C. The most important thing to remember with tennis is that you have substantial time after the hop to delay the jumping C to make sure that the spacing when the opponent is batted back to you is good for you to get your 5B into 2B into jumping 2C off. A lot of people rush it and they end up not converting the combo. Practice it, take your time, and once you get it down, now we have a great combo extension to get a lot more damage. Now the main situations that you'll find yourself in to get the tennis loop off starting out would be converting any 5B, 5C into a Heat Riser B version directly instead of letting the 5C play out. There you can dash up, catch the opponent with a 5B into 2C, and then combo into tennis. Whenever you catch the opponent with a counter hit 2B, you can whiff a jumping C, and now that they're airborne, combo into 5B 2C to initiate the tennis loop. Once you're confident with the tennis loop conversions, you want to try to use it as much as possible because you can wipe out the opponent's health bar very quickly. You can start looking for openings to sweep into SB gunshot. Remember those crouch confirms you've been practicing, those also can be comboed into the tennis loop. So yeah, once you've got the tennis loop down, the combos aren't very difficult at all. And listen, you're bound to drop combos. It's part of the process. With Adachi, you really want to focus on controlling the pace of the game with your persona, normals, and pressure tools. You can't rely on easy openings through ambiguous crossups and stuff like that like some other characters have, so you have to be very strategic in cracking the opponent's guard. Remember, you got command grabs. Utilize them. Make sure you always establish Izanagi as a full screen threat. Use persona displacement to your advantage. Make the opponent second guess everything. Make sure to always get your buffs off. That Heat Riser buff to do extra damage and the damage reduction the opponent does to you is super important. Stacking the innate defensive buff that Awakening mode gives you with the Heat Riser defensive buff lets you stay in Awakening for very long because the opponent has to do that much more damage to kill you. You'll realize that you're able to get in and sneak victories out of games that you had no business winning at all with this character. To succeed with Adachi, you need to be fully cognizant of every step of the game state. Every 25 SP unlocks another option, and you should be immediately aware of that and ready to execute when the time comes, either during a block string to use an SB gunshot or to convert into a specific super or combo route if you get a hit on the opponent. By the way, this guide is only scratching the surface of Adachi combos and we didn't even touch the important setups. But get the basics down and the rest will fall in place later when you're ready for the next step. Hopefully I helped with getting the basics down. See you next time.